session, we are the team focused on increasing sensory accessibility at the Mount Botanical Gardens. Just a table of contents, we're first going to go over the challenge, how we narrowed to get to our solution, some feedback we received, and some next steps. So sensory accessibility is becoming a more prevalent challenge as 1 in 4 individuals have a sensory need or individual disability. This can be seen through autism, PTSD, dementia, ADHD, and many other conditions. Sensory needs are a common medical condition in which the brain has trouble receiving and responding to information that comes through the senses, such as lights, crowds, sounds, smells, and these senses can be drastically different from person to person. Without accommodation to these needs, individuals with sensory needs remove themselves from communities and spaces due to worrying how they'll be viewed and feeling not welcome in the space. Therefore, communities lose their participation and the individuals lack a sense of belonging. To give some context on how we got to this, we first received this challenge from the Mount Botanical Gardens and Nichols Arboretum, or the MBGNA. We did some internal research on the problem, and then we led to some interviews. First with the resource provider, the MBGNA, also with some complementary organizations and allies such as the Student Accommodation Services, the Pottery Park Zoo, Autism Tennessee, Mid-Michigan Autism Association, and Special Needs Teacher, as well as some beneficiaries like the Autism Spectrum Club here on campus and parents of special needs children. For some contextual factors to this problem, there's the idea of access friction, such that sensory needs overlap a large range and they can clash with each other. So it's important to keep in mind that any solution that we create, it could be beneficial for some people, but it could also be harmful for other people. Also with the MBGNA, we can't change a lot of the infrastructure that's already in place, and we can't harm nature at all in our solution. And with the financials, we need to make sure that our solution is low cost, because a lot of people who face sensory needs have a lot of financial constraints due to medical costs.
Okay, so next we'll move on to talking a little bit about our process, how we worked with this. So throughout our interviews with all the different people that Bryce talked about, a lot of different themes and insights came up. But one that we sort of chose to focus on in particular was preparation for arrival. We heard from a lot of different people about the importances of being able to prepare yourself and know what to expect. In particular, we heard from Jessica Moore from Autism Tennessee that autistic individuals thrive on predictability, knowing what to expect and knowing how they are supposed to engage beforehand. So when we were going through our process and looking at all of our different themes and our ideas, we came up with coming up with a bunch of different how might we questions, which is sort of how might we address each of these different core themes or ideas. We chose to focus on how might we make individuals feel better prepared prior to attending the Botanical Gardens. With that, we came up with a lot of different ideas, we did a lot of brainstorming, and we sort of clustered them into different themes. And then we took those different ideas and we assessed them against a bunch of different criteria. In particular, some of our most important ones were, is it safe? Is it sustainable? Does it accommodate a variety of sensory needs? Does it promote awareness and inclusivity? And is it important to our stakeholders? And all of this together sort of brought us to a two-pronged solution, which Bryce and Gagana will talk about now.
So one of the solutions we worked on was a social story, which is a feature of this larger sensory accessibility webpage. So a social story is a tool that's typically used by members of the autistic community to prepare an individual for an experience through a story. We found the solution primarily through a conversation with a stakeholder at the Pottery Park Zoo who had success using this social story. And then again, Student Accommodation Services stressed the importance of preparation before. We had to take into consideration that we don't have experience creating a social story, so we had to lean very heavily on the advice of experts and look at what they had done in their role as well. We also again had to focus on the fact that individuals have different sensory needs and how these can clash with each other. So here's an example of some slides from our prototype social story. They typically use personal pronouns like I and we. We use positive language throughout while still being realistic about some rules, etiquette to adhere to, and lots of pictures and descriptions of what the space might look like and what to expect in each. Some feedback we got was positive. We liked the idea. The Potter Park Zoo told us that adding more positive language, adding links to already existing resources was great as well. Adding more information was always a good idea. And then student accommodation services mentioned that we should highlight the positive experience that would be had at the Botanical Gardens. So far, we have updated the language to be more positive and reflect that positive experience. We've added some more aesthetically pleasing photographs, included more photographs of kind of logistical things like where the bathrooms are, what the visitor center looks like. In the future, we hope to create social stories of other aspects of the gardens. We also want to gather feedback from visitors who are using this solution so that we can update based on their input.
So the second solution is a sensory accessibility website. The website is designed to be an accessible and central hub to find information, tools, and resources. It's designed for any visitors with any degree of sensory processing issues and their families looking for resources. Now, how does it address user needs? It addresses user needs by giving agency and control to the visitors, creates a sense of community, provides comfort by reducing uncertainty, and ultimately creates a feeling of belongingness and inclusion. So here's the landing page. There's a side panel with all the different tools, and the initial page has a description about what sensory inclusive spaces means. We wanted to focus on consistency and simplicity, simple layouts, muted color palette, easy to read fonts, basically all of this to avoid overstimulation and to reduce cognitive overload. These are some of our website features. I will show you them in the next slides. Social story what Grace was just talking about, we're going to incorporate it on the website. The second one is a sensory map. Basically, it's a sensory map of MBGNA about the different sensory experiences around different areas in the map. Next one is a virtual tour. It's a 360-degree video immersive experience. The visitors can go through before they arrive at the gardens or even during their visit to the gardens. Next one is a crowd tracker. It basically tracks and records the number of people present in the gardens at any given time. And then lastly, we wanted to include like a continuous feedback form. We want to know if the users like the accessibility tools and if there are any areas for improvement. We spoke to some of the stakeholders from student accommodation services and from NGNA, and we had some positive feedback as well as some things to improve on. These are some more features for future. The next steps is basically to create and integrate new website features, gather more feedback, and we understand that it's an iterative cycle, so we will work on this.
And so next steps in terms of the entire project, we gathered so many resources during this experience, so we're going to share these with the MBGNA to ensure they can continue this work as well. We have a connection at the Mid-Michigan Autism Association that offered to send a sensory bag that could be used for checkout at the Botanical Gardens and also host staff training workshops if that's something that they want. We also have a ton of information about how other organizations implement sensory-friendly hours. And we have a ton of themes and information just from stakeholder interviews that we're going to share with them as well. So thank you for listening.
To make sure I understand, social story part of the website, is it like a blog where anyone can submit their story, or is it like you choose one? And then, like you feel like you just choose what's on it?
So as like a part of the more features we want to incorporate, one of them was like Instagram posts and vlogs. So we do want people to like submit their own experiences through that panel. But for the social story, it's more of like, what are the expectations when you show up? The example that we were modeling off of was from the Potter Park Zoo, which is in Lansing. And essentially what they do is they release their PDF on their website and they encourage families to have their child read the story, essentially in a first-person point of view. So it's like my day at the conservatory. When I walk in, I need to make sure I stay on the path. I should not touch things that say do not touch. Things like that to go over expectations and rules. But we absolutely want to like cover personal experiences through things like Instagram and other social media platforms.
How do you about the other group
this mention of accessibility to online platforms. Would you ever consider making this like a physical pamphlet or doing anything so when someone comes, maybe they weren't aware of the website, so being able to prepare in the moment, or do you think that's something that's not?
We've talked a lot about, especially with the sensory map, like having that available at the space as well could be an option, so that people could even like walk around with them if they don't have a phone or don't have access to a phone, especially for kids too that maybe are with their families. A lot of these can be printed out, and I think it's something that like could be accessible. I know the other group mentioned like a tablet or an iPad. That could also be a solution. That's what this is, like a tablet that could be checked out where you can kind of scroll through these features.
I think an idea that Karina had too is like putting the crowd tracker like on the like maybe like a TV or something in the indoor version so you can see before you go outside.
I'm gonna ask about the process of the design process that was behind on your solution. If you think back, what was something that felt really challenging during the process, and how did you navigate that?
I think something that was kind of challenging, and other people can expand on this. I put a slide in the.
I can just put the website.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think the issue was we had the problem statement, we knew what the users wanted, but we didn't know how to, what sort of layout to use. We didn't know where to start with the information architecture, where to put which, piece of information. So that's what we struggled with.
And I think like, so one of the major steps when we decided what idea we want to take, we had a lot of ideas that could have been implemented pretty easily, we think. Like with the sensory map, it would have just been like one thing. But our scoring was like kind of difficult, I feel like, just because we weren't exactly sure what way we wanted to take it, since an accessibility webpage kind of incorporates all of these things. So we weren't sure if we wanted to like make a social story and a sensory map rather than giving the outline of like the website platform. So I think that was just like a decision we had to make where we were like, we want to at least give the guidance of the web page, assuming all these things exist. And then we picked the one with the highest score as an example to create. That was probably like our major stuck point, was like, do we just create 2 of these resources and not give the website outline, or how to go about that?
I love the idea of prepping. A lot of people need that kind of prep and visualize. And we also have a children's garden, which can be wonderful or terrorizing. And so you could really say, I went to the children's garden today. I could imagine these scenarios to help prep people coming, so that the expectation, they kind of knew what was going on. They knew that the conservatory, there's a really hot room, and there's misters. There's also sounds that they may not be used to. So all of those things, I think, it's a wonderful way for parents, kids, just even adults, just prep for a trip, to kind of have that expectation. And I shouldn't say you can use the word expectation, but just to feel like they're a little more familiar.
And I think if right now we only focused on the conservatory, but again, like over the summer, I think it would be really cool to explore like the trails, the children's garden, other things like that too.
I went to the children's garden on one of like the first visits I went over there just to see. I think it's really cool. It was just it was, I think, hard to visualize because no one was there, and since it's the dead of winter when I went, it was like February. So yeah, we chose to stick to the conservatory since that's what was open to us. But absolutely, I think like in the summer and just like throughout the year, we could implement more areas. And I know when we talked with you, you said like creating different social stories for different seasons. I think that was a great idea.
I was just curious about the functionality of the sensory map. Like, you go to it, is it a flat map with a legend? Do you have like ideas to maybe click on a spot and then it gives you like maybe more like visual interpretation, or what? I can see that would altogether, to kind of help navigate, and so that the app in itself offers a lot more.
I think right now, what we focused on was just a flat map, but again, like this was the solution that we came up with, but didn't look into that much. So like the flat map of just with the legend of saying like maybe there's strong smells in this space or sounds, or it's hot in the conservatory. But I really love the idea of being able to scroll in and look exactly at maybe what, if you smell something, where is it coming from within the space, or where is the sense coming from? Being able to zoom in and out, especially if there's a tablet feature, would be really cool as well. So I think if we can continue over the summer, I think it's definitely something we would look into.
Another thing I think is we can combine the watching tour with the sensory maps. That would be a
The website prototype is beautiful. It's so exciting to see, yeah, what you created like only in the last week. So amazing job.
yeah, we wanted to maintain style and similar to the MBGN website. So it's actually already there. Which is,
Yeah.
it was the same.
Fantastic work. Other questions?
Any questions?
Other questions in Zoom? Okay, thanks so much, team 2.